In this video, we're going to be looking at adding together integers. An integer is defined as either a negative or a positive whole number. So as you can see from the number line here, we have starting with 0, which is neither positive nor negative, and to the right on the number line we simply count 1, 2. If we wanted to keep it going, we'd go 3, 4, and so on. And then to the left, in the opposite direction, things are continuously going to get smaller. So we go to negative 3, negative 4, and so on. Something I want to call your attention to is the fact that the numbers themselves do seem to grow from the middle. To the right it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. To the left it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Key word there is magnitude. It's something that's going to come up later, where magnitude would be something defined as the distance from 0, which is going to be the same whether the number is positive or negative. And that is going to be something important we'll reference later. But the first thing we're going to take a look at is adding two simple integers together, negative 5 and 9. And to begin with, we're going to be using a number line. So let's go ahead and draw a nice number line here. Number lines don't always have to start at 0. In fact, simplest way to go is go ahead and just start with the first number that you see, negative 5. So I'll just go ahead and put a negative 5 right here. And then we're going to add 9. And just like when you were learning about how to add whole numbers or natural numbers together, we can do this addition by hops. We're going to hop to the right because we're adding a positive number 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So right here is where the answer is going to be. But what number is that? Well, go back to what we drew on our prior number line. Until we get to 0, the numbers kind of look like they're getting smaller. Even though they really are getting bigger, the magnitude is getting smaller. And then once we hit 0, well, it just keeps getting more and more positive. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Negative 5 after negative 5 is going to be negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, and there's 0. So we're done with the negative numbers. Now we're going to start on positive. We have positive 1, positive 2, positive 3, and positive 4. Negative 5 plus 9 is 4, a positive 4. So let's do another one using a number line. This time we're going to do negative 8 plus negative 4. And I'm going to go ahead and put the negative 8 kind of in the middle here because we don't yet know what direction we're actually going to go. If you remember when you were learning about using the number line to do addition and subtraction, you would remember that subtraction, you always go to the left, and addition, you always go to the right. Well, in this particular situation, since we're rolling negatives into the equation here, is to remember that negatives, when you're adding and subtracting, change the direction of where you're going. So if you were going to the left, but you see a negative, instead of going to the left, you're going to go to the right. And if you were going to go to the right, when you see a negative number, instead of going to the right, you're going to go to the left. So our operation that we see here is addition. Normally when you see addition, you know you're going to go to the right. But what kind of number are we adding to our negative 8? We're adding negative 4. And negative 4, being a negative number, means we're going to change direction. Instead of going to the right, like addition would imply, we're going to go to the left. 4 hops. That'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, when we're going to the left with negative numbers, 0 is something way over here. Here was negative 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on over here. So here's negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative 11, and negative 12 is 4 hops to the left of negative 8. Negative 8 plus negative 4 is negative 12. Well, I don't know about you, but drawing a number line for every single problem that I could possibly have to do is going to get a little tedious, and it's going to take up a lot of space on my paper. And I'm not really fond of that. So what we're going to need to do is come up with a rule. So here's the rule when it comes to addition and subtraction. If the numbers are the same sign, and we're adding the two numbers together, you are just going to add the two numbers together and keep the sign that both numbers have. For example, we have a positive 2 and a positive 3. Add them together. Well, 2 plus 3 is 5. Keep the sign. Positive, positive, positive 5. Or negative 3 plus negative 5. They have the same sign, so we're just going to add them together. 3 plus 5 is 8. But it's a negative, negative, negative. The answer is negative 8. And that's what you do if you're adding integers with the same sign. Now, if you have a different sign, this is where you've got to put a little bit of thought into it. We're going to subtract the two numbers, but you're going to keep the sign of the larger of the two numbers. And if you remember me giving you the word magnitude earlier, that's what we're talking about, is you're going to keep the sign of the number that has the larger magnitude. I know it's a big word, but really all it means is the number that looks to be the biggest. For instance, here we have negative 5 and negative 3. If you simply had the numbers 5 and 3 together, what's bigger? 5 is bigger. Well, since 5 has a negative in front of it, our final answer is going to have a negative in front of it. And the subtraction or difference between 5 and 3, 5 minus 3, is 2. So we know the answer is a negative 2, keeping the sign of the number with the larger magnitude, or the one that is the larger of the two numbers, being 5. And a similar problem here. We have 9 and negative 2. Well, we already know that 9 minus 2 is going to be 7. So I know off the bat, before I even look here, that the answer is going to be some kind of 7. So you look at the magnitudes between 9 and 2. Well, what's bigger, 9 or 2? 9 is bigger. And since 9 is positive, our final answer is positive. So not only do we know it's some kind of 7, but it's a positive 7. So those are the rules we're going to apply rather than having to draw a number line every single time we add two of these guys together. And boy, am I glad of that. Do you really feel like doing 38 or 24 hops on a number line? I don't. So let's see. We've got 38 and 24. First thing we're going to do is subtract them. If I'm going to do subtraction by hand, I like to go ahead and stack them vertically. 38 minus 24, 8 minus 4 is 4, 3 minus 1 is 2. I know the answer is going to be some kind of 14. But what kind of 14 is it? Is it a positive 14 or a negative 14? Well, I'll ask you. We have a 38 and a 24. If you saw just a 24 and a 38, which one do you think is bigger? 38's bigger. And what's its sign? It's positive, so the final answer is positive. 38 plus negative 24 is a positive 14. Apply that same rule in this scenario. We have negative 65 and negative 23. Are the signs the same or are they different? This is a negative 65 and a negative 23. They're both negative. So according to our rule, we know that the sign is going to be the same. It's going to be a negative answer. And then all we got to do is add the two numbers together. To do it vertically, 5 plus 3 is 8. 6 plus 2 is 8. The answer is negative 88. Our next example is negative 56 plus 87. Are the signs the same or different? They're different. So we're going to be subtracting these numbers. Which one's the bigger number? Well, ignoring the sign, 87 is a bigger number than 56, or 87 has a larger magnitude than negative 56. And since 87 is a positive number, we know that the answer is going to be positive. Sometimes I like to go ahead and just put a little plus there. I'm not going to leave it in my final answer, but it's a good little reminder to myself to remember what the sign of the final answer is going to be. And since we know that 87 is the bigger one, we're going to subtract, putting that one on top. 7 minus 6 is 1. 8 minus 5 is 3. We know the answer is a positive 31. And just to clean that up a bit, I'll get rid of that plus sign so we can just say the answer is 31. And then finally, let's go ahead and treat this within a scenario, a word problem. A soccer team raised $585 for the upcoming season. They had to spend $275 on new jerseys. Use integer addition to find how much money they have remaining. So two things happened. They earned money and they spent money. When you earn money, you're having a positive number introduced into your bank account. We are going to have a positive $585. But they had to spend money. When you spend money, well, that's a negative to your bank account. Money's being taken out. So this is a negative 275. And since the word problem asks us to use integer addition to do this, we're just going to add those two numbers together. Now, I think we both realize that we could have written this problem down as simply 585 minus 275. But within the confines of this problem, and to reinforce the idea of integer addition, this is how we're going to look at it. So, first step, are the signs the same or are they different? This one's positive. This one's negative. They have different signs. So we're going to be subtracting them. The larger looking one is going to be the one whose sign we keep. We have 585 of some kind, and we have a 275 of some kind. The larger one is positive, so I'll just put a little plus sign there to remind myself what it is we're going to get for a final answer. And let's just do this vertically. 585 minus 275. 5 minus 5 is 0. 8 minus 7 is 1. 5 minus 2 is 3. It's a positive 310. Or to put this back into the context of the problem, it is a positive $310. And that's how much money they have remaining. That's how you add integers.